just a little bit about me. My background is from the technical side of the house, but what we found, and we'll talk about some of the stories where we're seeing Agile being used in very different arenas than just the technology side. This is what we do at Agile Velocity, is help organizations, help teams, help leaders who are trying to figure out how do we implement Agile, how do we do Agile, how do we do that at a team level size, or we're working with companies like Southwest Airlines, and how do we do this across thousands of people, and what does that change look like, and it's going to be disruptive, how are we supporting that? We do all those kinds of things, and we've got coaches. We're based here in Austin, but we have coaches all across the country that are working with organizations, and we'll share some of those stories tonight that we've seen. So what I want you to do is just kind of turn to a neighbor and just kind of talk about these two questions, right? So what does Agile mean to you? What is, two in pairs or threes, what does Agile mean, and what would you like to know more about Agile? What are you hoping to get out of tonight? And that's going to help shape. I sometimes do training and sometimes do improv, right? Training, right? So we'll see what comes out of this, and I'll adjust accordingly. I'll be agile about what we do tonight. All right, so turn to a neighbor and just have a quick little discussion. Introduce yourself if you don't know your neighbor. The first question, what did you hear some things from others? What kind of words did you hear to describe Agile from your partner? Quick? Maneuvering. Flexible. Mindset. It's new.
Close to the problem.
Close to the problem.
Velocity and iteration.
Velocity and iteration. Cool. All right. And then what were some things you heard that you're like, you came in with questions, right? You came in with maybe some optimism, maybe some skepticism, right? But like, all right, what did you hear that, you want to know more about Agile? How to get started. How to get started. How do you know you're doing it?
How do you get more done?
How do you get more done quicker, faster?
How does it apply?
How does it apply in your this kind of HR context? Yeah.
Best practices.
Best practices.
What are the expected outcomes? What can you gain from it?
Yeah, what can you get? Well, why would I do it? Is it worth it?
How do companies develop the necessary transparency?
Yeah, how do you do that? Right? Yeah, so good. So good stuff, right? You'll well, we won't get into like all the specifics. My hope is to answer a lot of questions and leave you with many more. Right? Leave you curious to go find out more. Hopefully, and figure out, is it something that can apply to you? My optimism says I think it can, but it's not for everybody or at the right timing for everybody, and so those are things that we'll kind of discuss. So here's one of the core premises that we have, which is if you think about, we've all been successful in our career, our companies have been successful, but if we don't adapt to what's happening in the world, then we might be one of, you might be on my next slide. We don't want you to be on this slide. But here's a bunch of companies that were at the top of their game, and they're not anymore. And that's because they probably at one point thought, like, we got this figured out, we're good. And they didn't adapt fast enough to what the market is dictating. And so the reality is, I don't know if people added more cranes into this picture, but it's like, we live in what we call a VUCA world. Who's heard this term VUCA before? Yes. And what it stands for is, the V stands for volatility. The amount of change, the things that are happening, the speed at which change is happening, the magnitude of the changes is more greater than it ever has been. Right? And then there's more uncertainty about the present and even the future and where we're headed. And it used to be, we had more clarity and certainty where we could, let's build a 3-year strategic plan. How does a 3-year strategic plan sit with you when you hear that today? You're like, 3 years? We really, I'm not saying your companies don't do it, but like when you start participating in that activity, you're going, yeah, this is going to be a lot of wasteful activity because who knows what next year has in store for it. There's just more uncertainty So having a vision for 3 years, not a bad idea. Having a plan for the next 3 years, that's gonna be a lot of throwaway effort, right? And that's just kind of the reality of the world. Because things are also more complex than they have ever been in terms of the dependencies across teams, and in terms of how our organizations are structured. There's more complexity, and there's more ambiguity to the information that we have. Right? We have more data than we ever had in terms of what's happening, more metrics, more survey tools, more out the wazoo about assessing our culture, assessing this, assessing that. But then that doesn't necessarily mean that we have, now we have so much data, it's hard to make sense out of all of this data. What is it really telling us? We've got this world that we're living in, and if you think about this kind of evolution of Agile was kind of in it about 20 years ago. And I didn't start doing it until about 15 years ago. At the beginning, it was all kind of grassroots, the brand new thing. Nothing was happening at the enterprise. It was all kind of smaller teams and stuff like that. So it started out with this kind of one team doing Agile, and then that grew to, most of you probably were talking about, like, you've heard about Agile on the tech side. And so it's kind of like, does it really apply outside of tech? So for the longest time, for about a decade, it was mostly kind of a tech thing. And then it was, well, we can't just do it inside of tech. We also need our other counterparts from a business standpoint. Who's our customer? Who's representing the customer? So we started pulling them in. And then we started realizing, well, this impacts other parts of the organization. It's not just tech in the business, but it's going to impact our HR practices. It's going to impact finance. It's going to impact marketing. And then we started to realize, well, maybe we could apply these things inside of HR from a business unit agility, and what we're here to talk about today, but we're also seeing HR and marketing are the two biggest places we're seeing Agile outside of technology, are in those two domains. And then we started to see, well, why isn't our whole organization working with agility? How are we making decisions at an executive team level? What are we doing there? So if we're just doing it within all these units, well, we kept hitting, as we were helping organizations, or even when I was inside of organizations, I'd always hit a ceiling. Right? The ceiling would be the highest level of leadership support. And then eventually, if you could get up to the CEO, then it's like, okay, now we can do this broad across the organization, and we all need to be working with more agility in order to respond to the changing dynamics of the world. You've all heard that the rate of change is exponentially increasing. But what that means is the rate of disruption is exponentially increasing for every one of your companies, every one of your organizations. And if we're not responding to those demands, right? If it's how we're helping our business partners recruit better talent, and how are we helping them have a more engaged workforce? If we're not helping, right, respond in the ways that the market is demanding. I know, like, hiring people in this town is really easy, right? But we're always having to reinvent. How are we going to go get the best talent? How are we going to attract the best talent? How are we going to retain the best talent? Right? All of those things come into play. And the reality is the workforce, let me ask y'all are the experts on the workforce, right? Has the workforce changed at all over the last decade? Just a little bit? And in this town, right? This town that sometimes feels like a town of entitlement, right? It's like it's an interesting thing to hire and retain and think about. Okay, what is the demands of our workforce, and what's happening there? But the scary stats, and you guys have probably heard this one. We have an engagement problem with our workforce. Every survey I see always has about something like 1 in 5 workers are fully engaged in their work. Most average, and it cuts across all industries, all different things. 1 in 5 workers are fully engaged in their work. So that means out of a group of 5 people, a team of 5 people, only one of you have decided to bring your brain to work today. Who is that? That's you? Okay. It's your turn today. You got the brain and the line. Okay. And so here we have this challenge, and sometimes it shows up because that person's the boss. And that person's micromanaging and making all the decisions, and everybody else is checked out. They showed up with energy. They thought they were going to have some autonomy, and they got there, and then they kept getting overruled. And eventually they're like, you know what? I don't get to make any decisions. I'm gonna just collect my paycheck. I like the location. It's got a good view. I could go run during lunch. I'll collect my paycheck and eventually I'll look for a new job. But I kind of like the other people that I get to hang out with. And you know what? Since I don't make any decisions, I'm not really accountable for anything. So, haha. And so we've got this kind of crazy thing that's going on. And so what we got to figure out is we've got this. Most of our companies are made up of knowledge workers that need to be creative, innovative, right? And we got to get them engaged, and they demand more autonomy than ever, right? They, demanding more. I can kind of dictate how I'm going to work, how I want to be involved in decisions. I want to have choices, right? And I heard a guy talk VP this last year, and it was interesting. He was talking about how, in his organization, he allowed the people to choose their boss. That they could choose anybody that they wanted to be their boss in the organization. And everybody was kind of like, and so there was some Q&A going on, and he was like, yeah, what happens if, one of the managers nobody chooses? Right? Well, fix the glitch, right? That's one thing. But he also said, look, every employee has a choice to choose their boss outside of your company. If you're not allowing them to choose their boss inside the company, right? We've all heard the stats. What's the number one reason why people leave or stay? Is their manager, right? So what are we doing to create an environment where people have the autonomy, where they can be successful, right? And we're supporting, and I'm not saying go implement choose your boss strategy. That's scary too. Right? But what are we doing to create the environment that works for our workforce, right? That is getting them engaged, is empowering in that way. The other challenge we have is I call it drowning in a sea of opportunity. Anybody in here have way more demand than their team's able to get done? Right? I think everybody in here has way more demand than what our throughput of how much we can get done. So what are we doing to optimize that we have to make hard choices about what are we going to do and what aren't we going to do? And what aren't we going to do is the hardest decisions we have to make. Because everything looks high priority. And everything that's given to us, is deemed, you need to do these 5 things. They're all high priority. The reality is we've got to make choices about what we can do and can't do. And what right now, we don't. And the analogy I like to use is that we're trying to shove more paper in the printer, trying to get it to go faster. That's what, if there's any leaders in the room or people that are kind of asking others to do stuff, what happens is we end up shoving more paper in the printer, and what's that do to that team? It jams up the printer, jams up the team. So everybody's juggling so many things. Everybody's busy. Everybody's 100-something% utilized. We got everybody busy. But the question is, are we actually delivering any value? We're busy, but are we actually getting anything done? Right? So we're going to talk about that. So Agile, kind of back to why would I do Agile? When we start thinking about agility, the keys are we creating focus for our teams? So that we're focused on the highest value stuff all the time. Relentless pursuit of focusing on the highest value stuff all the time. Are we getting that workforce engaged? Right? How are we creating a structure where they can be successful that's not a command and control hierarchy driven kind of structure? Are we getting them involved and getting their brains engaged in solving the problems? Are we distributing the decision making to the people closest to the problems as opposed to the hierarchy kind of structure? Are we adapting? Do we have the speed to adapt, or are we working on big long plans and resisting change along the way? Are we innovating, and ultimately is this leading to happy customers for the things that we deliver in terms of our services, in terms of the products, in terms of the things that we do? And those are the things that we're trying to do with agility. So let's think back when the first 2 minutes of planning were up, and I started shouting, we're going to start, 5, 4. Who at that point was like, no, we need more time. We don't know what we're doing. Right? Yeah. Now, because it was uncomfortable. We didn't have a perfect plan. We didn't have it all figured out. And so a lot of times when we have projects, we have initiatives, we spend way too much time up front because we're trying to get to that comfort stage to be able to begin. Now let's think about what if, do you think we should have spent more time planning up front?
No.
No? Why? What was the most important thing?
Do it.
To learn by doing, like to iterate, to try something. Because if we would have spent more time up front planning, we would not have gotten round 4 in the time box, right? And a lot of times we have kind of fixed date, like we got to get something done by a date. And if we spend more time preparing and planning and analyzing and designing, then we have less time to actually learn and execute and iterate. We were all in it together. It was a team. How would you describe your leadership model? Collaborative? Was there one person in charge? Yeah?
I would describe ours as more like that servant leadership style. Like we really realized that like one person had to do a bulk of the work, but like it really took everybody to realize their powers, like make it collaborative and make it successful.
Yeah, so we
That's
call
one
this
person who did the bulk of the work.
we call this emergent leadership. Right, is that at any point on an agile team, everybody's bringing their skills. Some people have more senior experience. Some people got a newer point of view. But everybody's bringing their specialties to the table. But we're owning the problem together. Some people could pass balls better than others, right? That's just what we learned right now about, right? But we learned, okay, one person may be better at this, and we're going to leverage that. But ultimately, anybody could have an idea on how we could improve it. How could we do it better? And every voice needed to be heard. What does it require by the rest of us for a leader to emerge on our team?
Trust.
Space, trust,
Listening.
shutting up, right?
Trying what they said to do.
Yes, courage and openness to try these other ideas. I might be like, hey, I think my idea is best. You think your idea is best. And I could be very stubborn about it. The good thing, what we just did is what we call empirical process control. Empirical process control is saying, you know what, we don't have perfect information up front. Anybody have perfect requirements on all their projects, initiatives they do? No, it doesn't exist. Do we ever complain that we don't have perfect requirements? Yeah, all the time, right? Because then that passes the blame to them, right? So we don't have perfect requirements, so we got to iterate, we've got to learn, empirical process is all about inspecting and adapting. Time boxing, let's try. So I don't know if my idea is actually going to be better or yours. Let's try one. And we try it for a minute, see how it goes. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, let's try my idea. Maybe both of them suck, right? And maybe then you see something on the team that you could take from each of ours and make a better idea. Right? We just want to go through those time boxes. So when we think about what Agile really is, Agile was defined in 2001 with this thing called the Agile Manifesto. But I'm not going to go through all that. That's a bunch of words, right? It's a bunch of theory. So what does it really mean? Well, the biggest thing that we're trying to do is build high-performing teams of people that all are bringing this collective experience and knowledge to the table, and we're distributing ownership of the problem close to the people closest to the problem. As opposed to hierarchies are too slow as far as decision-making anymore, right? If something's happening down here and the information has to go up, and come all the way back down, it's too slow. Plus, the people are too far removed from understanding, the leaders are too far removed from understanding all the data that's happening. So we need the people, and we need a cross-functional team, so we're not just handing stuff over the wall to the next team and the next team. We need all of those skills together to solve the problem together. So that's one of the biggest things when we talk about Agile that we're trying to create, is this collaborative, high-performing team. The second thing is we've got to limit what we call WIP, right? Work in process. Too often as leaders focus on is everybody busy? Is everybody highly utilized, right? These are all output efficiency types of things. Well, what's it's after 7, so, but what about an hour ago, we could look over and see the roads out there were highly utilized, right? What's 100% utilization of MOPAC? It's gridlock. It's not moving, right? We actually don't want 100% utilization of everybody in our organization. We've got to actually limit how many things we're working on at once so that we can actually get things done. We have this saying, to stop starting, start finishing. It's easy to start new things. We could start new things every day, every hour. We could start new stuff. But what we want to focus on is actually finishing, because that's when we realize the value of our work. Right? So we got to figure out how can we break things down into smaller chunks so we can actually deliver and get value out the door more frequently and always be delivering the highest value thing. And if we're working on smaller things and smaller cycles, what that allows us to do is pivot when a month later we realize something else is higher priority. But when we have lots of things going on in parallel and we're making progress on lots of things that then take a lot longer to deliver. So the idea would be, say we needed to get 3 things done, you guys only work on like 3 things, right? That would be nice, wouldn't it? But say we had 3 things, but if each of them are a month long, but we try and work on all of them at once, which means it's going to take 3 months to get all of them done. Or we could focus and get one of them done. And so now we've delivered some value 2 months earlier than we would have. Plus, if something new, higher priority comes up after that first month, instead of working on number 2 and 3, some new number 4 comes up, but it's higher priority, we can now pivot and work and adapt to working on this higher priority thing, right? Which we have to be able to adapt in our organizations. And if we're not, we're just like, no, we already committed to doing this, then we're not keep up with the demand. So we start doing things, and you've probably seen this with Agile teams, like we talk about daily huddles as a way for teams to sync up, right? Every day, what are we doing? Who's got what? Are we working on the right things? So we're doing that all the way to that level. We're creating visibility to what's all the work that we have. Because what we deal with a lot of times is what we kind of call virtual goods. If you were managing a manufacturing line, you could see all the excess inventory. You could see where the bottlenecks were, right? You could see all of it because it's all physical, right? But if you're doing what we do, a lot of times we don't see where all the bottlenecks are. So we do things like, let's put all the work we have on a Post-it. Everything that we're trying to do, let's put it on a Post-it. Let's put it on a board. Let's start seeing, are things moving or are they all stuck? Right? Are they getting done or are they all just queuing up in this one step in our process? So if we could start visualizing what are all the steps in our process, and we start looking at, this was actually back in about 2012, this was Livestrong. And we were looking at all of their processes for like putting on a new event, all the email campaigns, all the things that they were doing. And each of these like sections, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sections on here, are all 6 different things that they do that all have different process flows. Does this look like a mess? Yeah, but before they couldn't see it. They had this mess before, but they couldn't see the mess. They made sense out of it. And every day they started huddling around us. They started realizing, oh my God, we're doing too much. We're trying to do too many things at one time. Right? How can we start limiting it? We got to see it in order to do that. And so when we combine the two, we start getting better alignment. Are we working on the right thing? All the friction that's caused in our organizations a lot of times is a product of the system in which we're working, the environment in which we're working. So are we creating an environment for people to thrive, where everybody is aligned on what we're supposed to do? Right? So even just taking those 2 things, if you just said, let's start huddling every day in front of a board where we see all of our work, and let's make decisions on a daily basis on are we working on the right things or not? And how do we swarm and help each other with the different things that we're doing? Even those 2 simple practices would start enlightening us on all the craziness that's kind of going on. The other big thing about Agile, we call retrospectives and Scrum, but the idea would be every 2 weeks, plan at least an hour, if not 90 minutes, where the team gets together, takes a step back from all the craziness of the day-to-day, and says, okay, just like you did after each round of the ballpoint game, what can we do to be better over the next 2 weeks? Just every 2 weeks, just take a step back and say, how did the last 2 weeks go? So it's simple, like, what worked, what didn't work. Start, stop, continue. Like, take an activity and just say, okay, what's working, not working? If that's the only practice you implemented, you're going to start getting improvement, right? If we sit there and talk about what are the things, what are the challenges we're facing, what ideas do we have for improvement? Okay, let's try one thing over the next 2 weeks. Just like you were making little iterative corrections to your process in the ballpoint game. That's a core tenet of Agile. Another one is that we focus on outcomes, not just output. Instead of just cranking out a bunch of stuff, getting a lot of things done. A lot of times what we do is we create, We cranked out a bunch of requirements documents, or we cranked out these type of documents, but we didn't actually finish the project, right? Deliver the thing that's of value to our stakeholder, our customer. So at the end of the day, we need to measure our success, our value that we're delivering as a team, based on the outcome or the value that we're delivering to our customer, not just how busy are we. Right? Are we busy and doing a bunch of things? Doesn't matter if we're not getting things done. Right? And then the culture of learning, not only learning about ourselves and how we can work, but this culture of, are we learning more about the problem we're trying to solve, or the problems we're trying to solve, the solutions and the way that we're trying to solve them? Are we building things in small little chunks? We call this being iterative and incremental. Somebody needs to get from one place to another. We could design the whole car and try to get like flawless execution, or we could build something of incremental value and test it and get feedback on it and validate that we're going down the right path. So working in small chunks of work is a big thing about Agile teams. How do we break work down into things like, what can we get done in the next 2 weeks? Not, we have initiatives that are going to be bigger than 2 weeks. But how do we break things down into what could we get done in the next 2 weeks that we could validate that we're building the right thing, that we're solving the right problems, right? Get feedback on that. So we look at all these elements across the whole organization, right? Continuous improvement, empowered teams, living with, getting better visibility. I want you to turn to your neighbor and just have a quick discussion about, if you started working in this way, how do you think it could impact your team? And then when I'm done, I'm going to raise my hand, which means wrap up your conversation. Raise your hand. Okay, all right, 2 minutes, ready to go. Okay. So what I've highlighted here are just some of those kind of easy, what could we start with, right, in terms of looking at, you could implement the whole Scrum framework, Kanban framework, all those elements. But a lot of them are built in these tenets, right? Are we creating a continuous improvement culture for our team? Are we putting the right people together on the team where we have everybody together to get whatever thing we're trying to deliver done? Where we're not saying, well, we can do 80% of it, but we always need somebody from this other team over there for the other 20%. Well, why aren't they on the team? Right? Why don't we get that person over here? We're all working together trying to solve it. Do we have all the right people on the bus? Are we limiting how many things we're working on at once? Are we getting visibility to all the work so we can actually attack the sources of kind of bottlenecks and other stuff? Do we see it? Can we see all the kind of craziness that's happening in our organization? So we focus a lot on that early. It's just like, let's get visibility to all the work. Anything that you're working on, write it on a Post-it, put it on the wall. Let's just start seeing how all those things compete with each other. They all do. And are we actually making informed decisions? And even sometimes, like putting all that and then inviting your VP over to look at, and we highly encourage using a physical board if you have everybody co-located, because everybody else can see the craziness. That might be a little bit of vulnerability, like, oh, I want them to see my craziness, but like, if you start seeing that, then the VP makes a new request. It says, hey, I need y'all to get this done. You say, okay, come with me for a second. You walk them over to that board, right? And you say, okay, so where's it rank in all this other stuff that you want me to do? I'm like, well, okay, maybe it's not higher priority than all that stuff. Okay, good. That's what I thought. We'll put it on the list over here, right? But in the, maybe there's a backlog over here. Maybe we might never ever work on it list. It starts to create visibility because the leaders, they're not doing it because they're mean people. They just don't see all of this either. So how can we start arming them with better ability to make decisions? And it's like, now we're not the one to blame anymore. Like, why aren't you getting everything done? Well, we're getting this stuff done. Like, where do you want it to rank? We're just starting to have conversations about that. Okay, so that's kind of I'm going to turn it over here in a second. If you're interested in more about, what this stuff is from an Agile perspective, how to apply it in HR, I'd love to talk because, I've done so much with tech teams that that's boring to me now, right? I like HR and marketing, and it is different. It's not you can go and learn some of the tenets, but how you do it in HR is different. How you do it in marketing is different than you would do it in tech. But there are a lot of commonalities and a lot of similar